Can you act for the purchaser and the vendor at the same time?
Oh, that's a really good question, Karen. Comes up a bit actually. The short answer is yes. However, there are a few barriers, and as we go through it, it's usually not necessarily advisable for that outcome to take place. The first barrier is that we can't sign a 66W certificate for the purchaser. So there has to be a cooling off period, or the purchaser has to buy the property at auction. That can end up causing some issues down the track. Initially, it might be a situation where both the purchaser and the vendor are comfortable with that taking place, but then as the negotiations progress and they're in a bit of a race to an exchange contract, sign contracts, and they need a 66W, and then they've got to start fresh with someone else. So generally, we normally shy away from it for that particular reason, because we feel like we're probably going to end up letting the buyer down at some point because of that particular issue. There can sometimes be some conflict issues along the way as well. There are code of conduct requirements that conveyancers are required to disclose to both the purchaser and the vendor prior to accepting that, that scenario taking place as well, whereby if there is a conflict that arises, we have to stop acting for both the buyer and the seller. Usually once we get to that point, either the buyer or the seller or both are not comfortable with the scenario of us acting for both parties. So that in a nutshell is really sort of the reason why we normally wouldn't do it. There are exceptional circumstances, of course, if the buyer and the seller know each other, it's an amicable transaction, you know, standard, relatively easy family type transfers that take place from time to time. It's pretty common for us to act for both parties in that type of scenario.